So the WNBA media needs to apologize. They need to apologize. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They need to apologize. They spoke like it was fact. They stated that that the Chicago Sky reported the Indiana Fever fan base and that there were things said. Whether it be Chiney, I don't think Chiney exactly said that. Monica McNutt, at least Monica McNutt and Chiney, whether they said it exactly, they very much implied it. I don't know if they exactly said those words, and I don't want to paraphrase what they said, but I will say what they implied. They heavily implied that the Indiana Fever fans that were reported by the Chicago Sky fans, and that it did happen. Not there was alleged hate speech, not that there was alleged things said. And by the way, nobody knows there was no, it says here, this is the first time they've mentioned it was racist fan behavior in the vicinity of the court. In the vicinity of the court, which is like right beside the court. Not one player on either team heard anything. Not one coach on either team heard anything. Nobody heard anything. Nobody heard anything. It started on Twitter. It was because of Twitter. So I think that every single player that reposted the post that it was a fact that it happened, and that because of these fans, it is unsafe for Angel to play in Indiana. I think every single player that reposted that, off the top of my head, it's Angel Reese, Natasha Cloud, and Michaela Oniwere. I don't know who else. Every single person who posted that should have to apologize. Chiney Nwumike, Monica McNutt should have to apologize. That is it. That is it. There was no, there was absolutely no, people are doubling and tripling down saying disgusting things happened to players on that day. Because apparently three people, it was 18,000 people, 3 people came out, went to a journalist, and basically said, we heard awful stuff. And by the way, I'm not doubting that happened. Sorry, name 3 people. One person came out and said they heard awful stuff in the stadium, who was nowhere near the court, by the way. Nowhere near the court. And I'm not doubting that you could have very well have been sitting behind 2 horrible people who just said horrible things. That is very different than an entire crowd hurling slurs at a player. That's very different things. And by the way, I'm not doubting that the latter thing happened, but you cannot paint 18,000 people, and mostly kids, is what they described as the scum of the earth. There needs to be an apology. There needs to be an apology from somebody, and no one's going to give it. Nobody is going to give it. I'm just reading this out. They publicly announced an investigation because of a dolphin noise in the VAR tweet. I hope the people in the media that spoke about it like it was fact at least acknowledge it. But we know they'll double down. You just know they're going to double down. You know they're going to say that we heard something else, and something was actually said, and they're going to go to the article of that one singular person who heard something in the crowd. And I'm sorry, there is not one sporting event, there's not one event you can go to where you can, there is not one event you can go to, sports or otherwise, where you can police what one random person says beside you to the person next to them. And that's not a thing. That's not a thing. You could go to the safest place in the world, and there's no question that a person beside you might say something bad. And it's very, very different. That is very different than an entire crowd. What the accusations was, the entire crowd making a noise of a specific animal towards Angel Reese. That is what the accusation was. That's what it was. And clearly, it was always going to be false. We all knew it was false. We knew it was false when it was first announced. We knew what it was about. Everyone knew what it was about. We knew it was BS. And the WNBA media pretended like it wasn't something. And it's even more dangerous that it was the WNBPA posted about it. The WNBPA posted about it like it was fact. The sister of the president of the WNBPA very much implied it was fact. on ESPN. ESPN themselves, well, not ESPN themselves, it was on an ESPN show. An ESPN show. They not only implied whatever they implied, they spoke about it like it was fact. If you want to say there was no implication, that's fine. If that is what you want to say, that's fine. If you want to make that argument, because again, but it was spoken about like it was fact and like it happened. And I mean this, no guarantee nothing happened in that stadium, but nothing happened that was heard by any player on the floor. Well, nothing happened that was heard by a player on the floor, and what was being alleged was a dolphin noise. Like what was being investigated was a dolphin noise. That is almost certainly a fact. It is extremely, extremely likely that what is being alleged is a dolphin noise. Because again, the players and coaches of the coach of the Chicago Sky said they heard nothing. They found out about the investigation. They found out about this type of thing when it happened. And I love how no matter who was being interviewed, the word alleged was never used. The word alleged was never used. And we heard it in the Angel Reese interview where she just kept saying this. It was so hard. It's so hard to hear this. What? It was so hard to hear booing. It was so hard to hearing a dolphin noise as you were shooting free throws. It was so hard hearing fans cheering you missing. Well, you better get used to hearing fans cheering you missing because you are shooting a lower percentage than Jonte Porter, and Jonte Porter was trying to miss. Jonte Porter was trying to miss shots, and you are currently shooting a lower percentage from the field than Jonte Porter. Like, you're going to have to get used to teams cheering you miss when you're a star player and you miss as much as you do. And you miss as much as she does. But it's just embarrassing all around from the league, and they need to apologize. They need to apologize. There's been no evidence, nothing, no videos. And again, nobody is saying that there wasn't a random person who said something to someone beside them. But there is an article, somebody saying they felt so unsafe at the arena. And by the way, there are 18,000 people. There are 18,000 people in that arena of all ages, genders, and races. And one person went to the media and said, oh, we heard these awful things, who sat nowhere near the court, by the way. They very specifically said it was in the vicinity of the court. So even if something happened with a random person in the crowd, that doesn't change anything. And I would say the WNBA media are going to double down on it. They're either going to ignore it or double down on it. And it is what it is. It is what it is. They're going to either ignore it or double down on it. Because, let's be real. Caitlin Clark had to speak out about hate comments that were never said. She had to speak out and denounce hate comments stuff that never happened. Not only are they're trying to make Caitlin Clark speak out about anyone and everyone, they're literally make Caitlin Clark speak out about stuff that did not happen. So yeah, it's just embarrassing all around. And again, if you are in the WNBA media, if you're a WNBA media member who was spewing these lies, or at least, or if there's other information speaking about something that was an investigation like it was fact. And the funny thing is that nothing will ever change. Because I've always said it, that the quality of the evidence doesn't matter, only the seriousness of the allegations. And that is what's happened. That's the reason why I made all these videos, because you look at the actual media and they were pretending that this is fact. And this is something that I wouldn't care that much about if it wasn't painting tens of thousands of people in a bad light. If it wasn't painting tens of thousands of people as scum of the earth, including kids. So for me, completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable that this ends up being a thing. And the funniest thing is that the only people that actually were on the the main people who were on the receiving end of hate speech were the Fever players. That's the fact of the matter. The actual people that were on the end of hate speech were the Fever players. Hate speech were the Fever players. And nothing was going to be said about that. Nothing's going to be said about that, and you know it isn't. But anyway, I'll see you guys.